Hello, everyone. I hope you're well, and thank you for joining me on Personal Branding for Your Success. And it has been a while, and I've not been on the lives for such a long time, so I'm pretty nervous today. I'm just completely out of practice, but I've got a really great guest that's going to be joining us today, and I'm super excited. Now, Stefan Thomas, he is an author of quite a few bestsellers on Amazon. He's the founder of the Networking Retreat, and I will let him introduce himself because there's so much more about his personal building his personal brand where on his background. It's just so interesting. And I met Stefan possibly about a year or 2 years ago at a networking event, and I saw him do a talk about networking and learning about his story. But I want you guys to hear what Stefan is all about, and I'd love to introduce him to you. And I've got so many questions to ask Stefan, and I know you guys are very keen to hear about this topic because it's one of the topics that everyone wants to learn about, and how to you can actually use it to build on your personal brand. So I'd love to say hello to Stefan. How are you?
I love the introduction. Thank you so much. I'm well. I'm really excited to be here. Like you, I sometimes get out of the habit of doing Facebook Lives. So I was really interested in how you introduced that, because that's something that I do sometimes. I do it for a few weeks and then I sort of forget. So it's lovely to be here, Kitty.
Yeah, it's so nice to have you here. And obviously we've met quite a few times, and obviously I know you do speaker training one to one, and I know you've trained my husband, coaching him one to one. But let's talk about your background as well. And I remember your story, but I want you to share it with everyone and tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to do what you're currently doing. And I know there's been certain changes since we last met, so keen to hear about that.
Yeah, quite a lot of changes. Where do we start? I mean, in 1983, I had my very first job, which was in a shoe shop in Oxford, um, and quite a lot of what I learned then I'm still using now. I guess I've always been someone who absorbed stuff which I learned and got taught at work. I got taught a lot about how to build rapport. Um, when I left school in 1988, I became an estate agent and did that until 2007. And in 2007, I ended up setting up my own business. I became self-employed by accident. It wasn't a choice for me. I didn't actually choose to leave estate agency. And and when I set up my own business, I realized I had to find clients. And just before the end of my estate agency career, I'd been invited along to these things called networking breakfasts. And so I started going along to them. Um, but all of a sudden, now it was my own business, there was more of an urgency, more of a
Mm.
desperation. So I had to make it work. I started getting a reputation for being good at networking, winning business from networking. And then people started asking me to speak about it. So
Right.
I started talking at small networking events and then slightly bigger events. And um, 5 or 6 years later, I was speaking at an event in London where the publishers of the Dummies series of books happened to be in my audience. And later on that night, they asked me to write that book. So that's the sort of shortened version. Now in 2020, I speak sometimes several times a week. I've spoken at an event today and one yesterday. And now, of course, big changes because I'm doing all of my speaking from here at home, rather than being actually on a stage with people. So, yes, that's the last. That's the last what 30 odd years in 35 years in 30 seconds or whatever it was.
Right, because I remember last time we had a chat, you were flying around quite a lot, and you were booked in for lots of gigs to speak about obviously networking. But how has the whole situation now in 2020 affected you, and what's your new way of networking?
It's a really good question for today, because it's something that I've been talking about so much today and thinking about today. My world has changed massively. I used to drive 1,000 miles a week, and I I think I've filled up my car about 5 times since March now, whereas I used to fill it up twice a week. So the world has changed for me hugely. I am, I reckon that networking now and going forward is going to be less about events, Kitty, less about networking events.
Hmm.
We typically think of networking, and your audience probably thinks of networking as the sort of events where I turned up and you shake hands with people and exchange business cards. I believe now that networking is going to be so much about what we do online, and why I'm excited to talk to you is that carrying your personal brand around with you and really understanding that, I genuinely believe has become really, really super important now, because we can all network all over the world now if we want to. It's not just about turning up at a networking event in Oxford. I can network, later on today if I want to, in America or Canada or Australia or anywhere I want, and so can anyone else. And so what we do with that online, I believe is really huge and joins up massively with people really understanding what their personal brand is.
Yeah, that's a really good, obviously a good answer for it, because I know I feel like a stalker sometimes. I know you're online, you're on LinkedIn, you're on Instagram. Just LinkedIn with you, well, obviously on Instagram this morning. But I feel like I stalk a lot of people. But I think we need to adapt to using social media to build your personal brand. And I know you've been doing the lives as well on LinkedIn, because I saw your first LinkedIn live not so long
Mm.
ago, and I know that's quite a unique way of obviously getting to your audience, and not many people can get a LinkedIn live. But tell me about how you're using social media. I mean, has that worked for you, or are you planning to do more with social media?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, constantly. LinkedIn has launched LinkedIn Stories yesterday, so
Yes.
that's something for you and me and Stephen and everyone else to work out how we use that. Social media has just become so important. The what I'm trying to achieve, and that's why I'm really happy to be here this afternoon, because you've got an audience of people who don't know me yet, and
Mm.
and all that I'm trying to achieve all the time is that more people know me and feel that they know me. So you've said about stalking just now. Well, the biggest compliment I get paid is when people who I've never met say that they felt that they already knew me, and that's me allowing my personal brand to be seen. It takes a bit of effort because I have to turn up. I have to be there regularly on LinkedIn, on social media, doing Facebook Lives. I'm doing a radio interview later on tonight as well, and it takes the effort to be there. But I find the more that I'm there, the
Mm.
more that people feel as though they know me as a person, and and when we talk in business about that trust factor, that's obviously a lot easier to achieve when people feel as though they know you. And we've had to adapt. We've had to adapt to doing it this way, so that I'm talking to a little camera in the corner of my device rather than talking directly to you.
Yeah.
We've had to adapt to doing it like that, but nevertheless, we can still do whatever we can to build up that profile with people, that feeling that people know us, and that's what I'm trying to do constantly.
So, I mean, with networking, I mean, I know it's all changed now, but obviously, maybe the old. I'm hoping it will go back to in-person networking, because that's what I love. I mean, that's how I build my brand. I think more meeting people, engaging with people. But with people that are new to networking, how can you build your authority? I mean, using maybe on the online platforms now, or even back in the obviously the traditional method of networking. How can you build your authority when no one knows you? What do you have any tips for us?
Yeah, starting with zero is brilliant. Starting with no one knowing you is great, and that's where I started. And it's I'm 15 years into this journey now, so I'm aware of the things that I could have done to speed it up. One of the things that I'm doing really consistently now is I'm looking for other people who talk about the subject that I talk about. And in real life, it's difficult to find those people, but online, I can early in the morning, which is when I tend to do it, I search on LinkedIn for people who are talking about networking, the subject which I tend to talk about, and then I go and comment on their post. And and it sounds really simple, but then that's one more person who knows me and knows that I talk about networking a little bit. And then what inevitably happens, inevitably,
Mm.
is that that person connects with me on LinkedIn. Plus, they also reply to my comments, because we all love it when people comment on our posts on LinkedIn. So they love it that this stranger has come in and commented. They then check out who I am on LinkedIn and connect with me. And then one by one, I start from 0 people knowing me, and then all of a sudden, one person knows me, and the other person in that conversation thread start to know me as well, and they connect with me. And then guess what? They go back and look at what I'm posting.
Mm.
So I and I'm probably much more strategic about this than we've talked about before, Kitty. And that's
Yeah.
I I go and pay attention to other people, and in doing that, some of those people then come back and pay attention to me. And that's the cycle which I go through. So I'm constantly using online networking to continue to build my personal brand out there, starting with 0 people and then building it one at a time. That's how I tend to do it.
Yeah, and I guess it's staying consistent as well. It's constantly being in front of people, especially online as well. Otherwise, they'll forget you after a week. But yeah, you're absolutely right. With either LinkedIn or Instagram, it's commenting on people's posts, liking them, and engaging. You know, it's not just the like; it's the engagement. And I say to a lot of my clients as well to follow other groups, comment in those groups, or new networking sort of literally out of their industry, possibly groups that could that could work for them if they're in, depending on what industry you're in. But I tell people to, don't, if you're in property, don't just follow people in property, go out of that circle, follow other people that may be interested in your subjects as well. So I think it's, this topic is really key, because networking is not just what you're good at and what you can do, but it's going further than that as well, and meeting new people. I mean, just over a year ago, I didn't know who you were, and by seeing your talk was so interesting, and then obviously Stephen, my husband, he was so interested in what you could offer, but we didn't know you did speaker training. So it's really interesting what you offer as well. And I know a lot of people, when they talk to me, they just think, oh, I'm just a designer or a branding expert, but I do more than that. So it's just having a chat, really, isn't it? And it's just building those relationships. And from that, I've by having this group, I launched it, I think it was end of May or June, but I've had lots of people asking me to be in their podcasts, on
Yeah.
their Zoom calls and other calls and stuff, which is really flattering for me, because no one knows who I am. I have got a very good background in terms of what I do, but it's getting out there, and I've always used the traditional form of networking, going into events, talking to people there, but it's a completely different ball game now. It's being online and being visible and consistent. So I've got a list of questions right in front of me. I'm going back to building your authority, and I've heard that by writing a book helps you build your authority. I mean, I know you've written 3 books, and how have you gone about that? And what has that sort of given back to you in terms of building your personal brand and your credibility?
Yeah, I think I never intended to write a book. I often feel like I should, when I'm being interviewed by people like you, I the fact that so much of this happened to me but completely by accident, I often feel like I should claim that it was all strategic, but it genuinely wasn't. I was asked to write Business Networking for Dummies because the publishers, based not terribly far from you actually, based in Chichester, had they saw me speak. We ended up going out for dinner that night, and they asked me if I would write the book. What that's done, and just so that your audience know, I don't actually earn a ton of money from the book itself,
Mm.
but what that's done is it has elevated my position. And I would advocate it to any of your audience who can write for themselves. Start writing, write blogs and articles first, and if you write enough blogs and articles, you'll have enough to put together a book anyway, and you'll be able to see what people are interested in. But writing content whether that's published as a book, whether it's published as articles on LinkedIn, articles on Medium, wherever it happens to be. It's like the event where you and I met.
Yeah.
Somehow, me being the speaker there sort of elevated my profile there,
Yeah.
and and being an author of a book starts to make you the authority of content, the person who's talking about something more than someone else is, and so you start to become the authority on it.
Mm.
And that's been an interesting one to me. We sold quite a lot of the first book, so they asked me to write another book. And then following that, I've self-published, and I'll self-publish again for my following books. But it's definitely done a lot for my profile, and particularly with Amazon these days internationally, because we can sell the book anywhere in the world, and
Mm.
that's been a huge leap for me. It really has.
And you don't have to go to big publishing houses now. A lot of people self-publish, and they can do print on demand as well. So you don't have to spend a huge amount of money on getting things published. So yeah. Um, Going back to your first book, your Networking for Dummies. If I'm a dummy, what kind of advice and tips would you give me?
It's a well, you're definitely not, and I'm sure your audience aren't either. Do you know what? One of the things is that because we wrap this stuff up in this word networking,
Mm,
I actually think people think that it needs to be more complicated than it
mm,
actually is. So I don't think that many people are genuinely dummies at networking. I know it's been a great brand to work for and be associated with, but most people know the rules of engagement.
mm,
Where I start with networking is that I I believe that every big opportunity starts with a little conversation, so that all that I'm looking to achieve at networking events or doing things
mm.
like this is to start new conversations with people. So I'm having a conversation with you, and we've known each other, broadly speaking, for 2 years now. As a result of that, I seem to be starting a new conversation with someone called Janine Coney. Hi, Janine, who's who's paying attention and
She's
commenting
great.
here, and now I know Janine exists, and Janine knows I exist. So without either of us going to a networking event this afternoon, now we're aware of each other. And that's a little conversation. I've got no idea where that will go, but I had a little conversation with someone 5 or 6 years ago that led to me speaking at their event, where I spoke in front of 6 or 7 people. And one of the people at that event was the person who booked me to speak at the event where I met you and Stephen and Chris. And so I'm a huge believer in the serendipity of never quite knowing where these relationships will take us. So meeting Janine this afternoon is Janine's just commented, "I'm great, you'll love me." I
Yeah.
think I'm sure, Janine, I'm sure you are, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you better. And who knows where these conversations go? That's what I love about all this stuff.
Yeah, I was on Janine's Instagram live last week, so she's great. Who knows? But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's the beauty of networking, and I think, like you said, it is that word people like think, oh, networking. It's not. Everyone has it in them to just engage. It's just having a conversation, like your neighbor. You're having a chat with your neighbor. That's networking, right? So it doesn't have to be the whole formal thing about, oh my god, And I think that's what gets a lot of people. They have the fear of like, oh no, now I've got to engage with someone. What do I say? And I guess it's creating that perfect pitch or that first initial engagement with somebody. And I think when it comes to personal branding, and I think a lot of people think that's a complicated thing, and I think it's the word that's personal brand. It doesn't mean anything. It's just you being yourself. And I think maybe we just overthink a lot of things. And with networking, it's the fear of. And I know that's why I was questioning about, if you were a dummy at networking, what are the sort of tip, not, I wouldn't say dummy though, but not a beginner or an amateur at networking. You've not done it often, or you're too afraid to go, and you've done it once and you just don't want to do it again. But what are the kind of tips you could give people, like about networking and how to overcome that fear and just taking that first step?
A couple of things, and also I've got a device down here where I've got the comments, and Janine's comment
Yeah.
has
Oh,
just
you
popped up there as well.
do.
So I'm going to I'm going to talk about what we do when we arrive at networking events, and I will talk about the 60-second introduction as well in a second. I set the bar very low when I go to networking events. All that I'm looking to do is start some conversations. So I am very human. I go and talk about the stuff which I would normally talk about. So in real life, I've usually had to drive a significant distance to networking events. So I'll talk to people about where do I get a cup of tea, or what, tell me about why you came along to this networking event, and what are you hoping to achieve here. So I just get talking to people, but then I make sure that we connect. And we connect and carry the conversation on forwards afterwards. To pick up on Janine's point, the thing which I'm really trying to do is to get people to understand that if you go to a networking event where you have to do a stand-up introduction, that it's not a pitch. It's an invitation for people to find out more about you. So that all I'm trying to do on my 60 or 40-second introduction isn't to pitch my business to them, but just to give people enough that they want to find out more, so that the right people are interested. And so if you get that right, then some guy called Kitty Lai comes up to you afterwards and starts to talk to you. And that's what I want to achieve at events like this, that I give people enough nuggets that they want to find out more about me, rather than in my 60 seconds trying to tell them everything about my business before I've even investigated whether they need my services. And that's the big head spin that I'm trying to get people to understand. No one's really a dummy at networking, but very often what we've been taught to do, I don't believe is the right thing to do, because what we've been taught to do is pitch our business rather than just try and engage people and help them to understand that they might want to talk to us a bit more. That's, I think, my dummies tips about it all.
Yeah.
And yes, Janine's comment, which is just on screen in front of us, for me, Janine, that has come with a bit, I dare say it, with a bit of age and experience for me. I'm less personally concerned these days about whether people like me. I don't go out of my way to try and get people to like me. So I'm turning up much more as myself these days. And that's what I would advocate anyone do at a networking event.
And it's also something I've learnt from Stephen, that when you go networking, you go with a purpose. I used to go networking, I just talk to everyone and give business cards out, and I actually never had a purpose other than use my services here, But my pitch is awful anyway, and I hate the stand-up 60-second pitches. I'm absolutely terrible at it. I think I've probably improved. Don't ask me to do it live now,
No.
but from what I've learned from Stephen, my husband, it's like, go with a purpose, and I've never done that, and I guess that's probably one of the things that I need to tick, and I go with a purpose now. So I talk to people, understand what they do, where they're from, and what they're all about, and then if they're not right, I move on. So that's what I got wrong from networking in the early days. But yeah,
I think there's only one thing I'd challenge about that, and that is our um, we often want to find the people who are right, and yet we never know in those first conversations really whether those people will be right for us, and just as importantly, who they know. And certainly I make sure I engage with absolutely everyone, because you genuinely never know where those conversations have gone. Something that I'm really clear about is that no one turns up at a networking event to be your target client. People don't get up in the morning and go and wait there to buy from you. They go there to try and sell their own stuff. So I try and work with that, rather than just trying to identify my ideal clients in the room,
yeah.
because they may not be there, but the person in the room may be the link to the ideal clients. I certainly, I watch people walking past what might be really great opportunities for them, because they somehow feel that the guy in the pinstripe suit is going to be the better option, and I try not to judge people to that respect.
Right. No, that's good challenge. But yeah, I just go around, and then I have the people that just stick with you, and it's like, well, okay, I finished the conversation now. I need to move on to the next. But no, that's a good point. Um, and Tell me, can you talk about more about your speaker training? Do you still do that, don't you, Stefan? Is that correct?
Yeah, and I'm going to be looking. I'm looking right now at different ways of doing things, and we're just developing a digital product. So that's something that I record once, and then we sell it over and over again because the world has changed a lot. I certainly feel that in terms of now, we need a different set of skills when we're speaking online than we do when we're in real life, and actually keeping an audience engaged when you can't see the audience, and at best you've either got them on screen and you can't hear them, or they're commenting instead of being there in real life. This does take a deal more energy, I'm finding, than if I've got a live audience where I can feed off their energy. So doing a half-hour Facebook Live, for example,
Hmm.
actually takes us injecting quite a lot of energy into it, because we can't see how the audience is reacting to us apart from the comments that they type in. So yes, I'm spending more and more time training people how to engage in this environment. And actually, right now, I'm working with quite a lot of sales teams across the UK in a bit of a diversion from what I normally do, but teaching them how to engage when they're used to getting on a plane and flying to Germany, flying to Turkey, flying to other places and having meetings with people.
Mhm.
And now we're doing all of it like this. And obviously it's much cheaper, but I'm having to help them understand how to engage, and doing the same thing in the networking environment as well, helping people understand how to engage in this environment. So when I'm working with people to become a speaker, one of the things that I did, and you may remember the conversations I've had with Stephen along the way, it's more about bringing more of them out
Hmm.
rather than trying to get everyone to be this identikit speaker who's just come out of a speaker training academy. It's for me, it's helping people be more of themselves and allowing that natural humor, that natural penchant for 80s trivia, whatever it happens to be, how we bring that into the speaking environments. Every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. I just spotted Stephen's comment above. I did see it.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. And oh, Janine, just a very true. Yeah. So, Can you talk about your networking retreat? Because you're the founder of that, and it just sounds really interesting, and it's really intrigued me in terms of what it is, and well, just tell me what it is.
The networking retreat has been brilliant, and the networking retreat is just over 5 years old now. I realized a couple of things. I realized that lots of people didn't quite get networking, and I could help them get much more value from their networking.
Mm,
And something that I realized is that I've been to a lot of training courses over the years where you turn up at 10 o'clock in the morning, you leave at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you don't ever really get to know the other people. You don't ever really get into the relationship. You don't really warm up to the other people in the room. And so the networking retreat ended up being a 2-day course, which I ran here in Oxfordshire. And I'm speaking in the past tense for now, interestingly, because we got people, we trained them how to stand up and speak. We trained them how to deliver their 60-second elevator pitch, an expression which I hate, but
yeah.
people know what I mean. Trained them then how to follow up with people, how to use social media, how to sell, how to close sales with people, and trained them in all of that stuff. But just as importantly, we all stayed in the same hotel and had dinner together, and everyone got to know each other. And of course, since March 2020, we've had to move the networking retreat completely online. So
Right.
so at the moment, the networking retreat is still happening, and it's happening online. When I consider it safe to do so, and we've got no idea when that will be, we'll go back to the 2-day events and get people together in a great hotel in Oxfordshire and do that. And
Mm,
it's also now a stable of products, the networking retreat, which includes an app, a podcast, and very, very soon, thanks for the opportunity to plug, a digital product where we'll have a lot of the content recorded so that people can download, rather than coming and spending 2 days in a hotel. So it's developed, as all these things do. It's developed over the last 5 years since I've been running it.
It sounds absolutely amazing. And obviously, going away and being in a room with other people, like minded people that really want to learn how to learn sales, how to do your pitch. And it just sounds really great. I mean, we'd love to have the details, post in here at, when you're still doing it online anyway. But I'd love to, the guys in this group to find out more about it because
Of
I think it's
course.
really important. And I mean, I'm going to open the group to some questions if anyone's got some questions as well. So I know there's probably quite a few people that want to learn much more about it, and I know it's all about building your personal brand as well. So, is there any sort of tips or tricks or that you could help the people in the group in terms of building their authority or their building their personal brand in terms of networking, or from your experience, what you think some of the people could learn from when networking?
It's it's putting the effort in. Something that I say regularly is that the real opportunity is that most people won't bother. So people can have a really brilliant, perfect personal brand, but if no one knows about it, then that's no use to them whatsoever. So putting in the effort to get to know other people and allow other people to get to know you, for
Mm,
them to understand what your personal brand is, that's the part where I find a lot of people fall down. But building your authority is relatively simple. Once again, it takes effort. I steal a lot from the wonderful Gary Vaynerchuk, and Gary talks about becoming the authority of content.
mm,
If you're the person who's talking about your subject more than anyone else, you become the de facto authority. If you're talking about your stuff more than anyone else on LinkedIn, you become the person who people invite onto their Facebook lives to talk about that subject, who people invite onto their radio show, and who people invite to speak, for example, at their events or write a book for them. So I mean, heavens, I don't put out anything near the amount of content that Gary Vaynerchuk's put out over the years, but I put out a lot more content than most people. So along the way, I start to become the sort of default authority on networking because I'm talking about it more than anyone else. And some of what I say resonates with some people, and I dare say that some of it just sinks like a stone and is never seen again. But I put the effort into talking about it and talking about it across as many platforms as possible every single day. And that's the bit which I think scares people, that it's getting out there, and whether you're commenting on other people's posts, whether you're writing your own stuff, actually showing up regularly is super, super important. And that's what I consistently try and do.
yeah, no, that's absolutely, it is about consistency and showing up, being visible. So that's what I keep telling a lot of my audience as well, to be visible. Except I've not been very visible in this group for a while. I show up every now and then, but no. But it is
But
about being
life gets
consistent. Yeah.
life gets in the way, and we've all had to deal with homeschooling
Mm,
and, in my case, ill parents, which have distracted me, and so on and so forth. So
yeah.
that's real life.
Mm,
I listened to a lot of stuff years ago, Kitty, that we should show up every day, and so on and so forth. And sometimes life gets in the way. Um, I don't know. I just want to focus on Janine's comment because it's
yeah.
really, that's a comment that I really love, because I don't yet know what Janine does, and I'll find out afterwards. But for all of us, Janine, there are other people that do what we do, and even if there aren't, we're in a very crowded market. I'll explain that. So I help people get better at speaking or get better at networking, but the result that people want is they want to sell more stuff. So the same person who's thinking about working with me might be thinking about investing in email marketing or a CRM system, which everyone should, and I know exactly who I'm plugging there. But there are always people who do the same as us. So what do we do to make sure that we're seen more than other people? The way that I do it is I go and engage one-on-one with other people, almost as if it's hand-to-hand combat. I go out every morning and comment on other people's posts, because rather than relying on other people to find my stuff, then what I'm doing is putting myself on their turf. I'm going into their thread, I'm going into their conversation, and those people come back and look at me. It is getting harder. Janine's just made the point. It is getting harder, but also we're getting more and more tools to do it. So this week I'm spending time on LinkedIn stories because it gives me a bit more visibility. This time I'm making sure that everyone who comments on one of my posts gets a personal reply from me. That's how I type. But it's constantly, Janine, looking at what else can we do to be visible, and it's multi-platform. So I'm visible on Facebook, I'm visible on LinkedIn, I'm visible on Insta. I keep an email newsletter going out once a week, and I continue to do interviews like this as much as I can, because the more that I can talk to my potential audience, the more that hopefully they will come back and look at me. But it takes effort, and that's what I continue to put in.
Yeah, so Janine is actually a personal branding stylist. So she styles people. She does show up every day on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and Facebook. She's got her own Facebook group. But I know she's absolutely smashing it. But I know she
Brilliant.
wants to aim higher, which is where we all want to be. But it is difficult when it is such a crowded market, especially what I do as well. It's very crowded and like yourself, but it is showing up. And I know she's built her Instagram to over 10,000. I know a few weeks ago she said, oh, she wanted
Wow.
to beat that 10,000, 10K, and now she's gone past that. And that was only a few weeks back, I remember her saying. But it is showing up and being there, and she's collaborating with other people. And Janine, you're doing amazing, and keep doing it. That's the thing. It's just keep going, and she's absolutely, a top girl, and yeah, she will get there, getting
The
there.
thing which I've got much better at is understanding it's not about the people who choose to work with other people. It's about really doubling down on the people who are warming to me, the people who are moving towards me, the people who are investing in one of my products or services. So it's the people who go off and buy similar services from other people. That's great. That resonated with them. The other guy's service resonated with them. That's perfect. What about the people who are commenting on my posts? Because the people who are paying attention to me, those are the people who I should be doubling down on. That there is something else that I'll say on that, Janine. Notice the people who are paying attention to you. Who is commenting on every single one of your Instagram posts, and are you putting the effort into to engage with that person one on one? That's something that I really really ought to write more of, because I do that as an absolute science, spotting the people who are really warming to me and making sure that I then go head to head with them. That's something that I spend a lot of time doing. And I picking up Stephen's point, yeah, that bit about being everywhere um, is remarkably simple to achieve, but it does take putting in the effort to do it. And you can. It works in the end. But I am 15 years into this. And there's been many years in there of not much happening to get to the stage where stuff does.
I love it. Stephen says wax on, wax off, practice
Yeah.
daily. That's typical Stephen comment.
Yes.
But hi, Aneta. Thanks for joining us. But yeah, Janine, you're absolutely amazing. Anyway, so keep doing what you're doing. I need to take a leaf out of your book and be there daily. But yeah, it's just yeah, no, it's absolutely amazing. But yeah, so Steve, so Janine, always remember the people who comment on your posts, right? It's the husband. But yeah, no, Stefan, it's absolutely been a pleasure having you here, and I
Likewise.
wish we could talk about more. I mean, are there any questions that I might have missed off as well that I've not asked you about networking and how you can build your brand? I know you covered quite a bit already, but do you think I've missed out anything that that other viewers would like to hear?
No, I don't. But what I will say is that I do practice what I preach. I do eat my own dog food. If people have got questions which they think that you and I haven't um, dealt with this afternoon, then pop them in the comments. I'm going to hang around and answer those comments. So yeah, by all means, pop any other questions that you've got in the comments in Kitty's group, and I'll answer them just as quickly as I can. So yeah, whatever's important to other people, Kitty, I'll hang around and make sure that I answer them.
So where can everyone find you as well? I mean, what social channels would you like people to follow you on, or contact you on? Is there anywhere we can reach out to you? Obviously, I know you're in the group already, but are there any
I'm, I'm
preferred channels?
I'm in the group. I'm very happy for people to friend me on Facebook, and most of my stuff goes out on my personal profile. Ditto LinkedIn, and I benefit from a slightly unusual name. So if people want to go and find me, my Insta handle is no red braces. Um, I'll actually type it in the comments in a second, Janine. But I am no red braces on Insta, or search for me by name. The minor benefit of having an unusually spelt name is that I'm quite easy to find in most places. But yeah, Janine, I will see you over on Instagram, and anyone else who's commenting as well, or LinkedIn or
Yeah.
Facebook, wherever people want to find me.
And if anyone follows me, you'll see all my posts everywhere. I've been posting up in LinkedIn, Instagram. So I've tagged Stefan in on every post
Fab.
anyway. So you can find Stefan there. But I'd love to hear more about this networking retreat as well. It just sounds really cool.
And
Really good.
as we're speaking, Janine's style coach has just followed me on Instagram. So
Uh,
this stuff works.
See,
Thank you, Janine.
that's it. The power of networking. It
Absolutely.
definitely works. Yeah. But thank you so much, Stefan. It's been such a pleasure to have you in the group, and
Likewise.
I know there's probably other topics we can talk about. You're so well versed
Let's do so.
on your area about speaking and networking. But we'll probably have to get you back in at some point as well to talk about
Be very
more. But
pleased to.
yeah, so thank you so much for joining us, and everyone else that's been watching as well. And if you're on replay, just hashtag replay. But it's been really great, such a great afternoon, and I've been such out of practice, but I've really enjoyed it today.
Likewise.
And I'm wishing everyone a great week, and I will see you all soon. If not, back in the group. So take care, everyone. One last comment. Yeah,
And
Stephen
would
wants
love
fun.
to. Of course we can.
Um,
And we need to. We'll do it the other way around as well, because I do the networking retreat video show. And I would like both Kitty and Stephen and Janine and whoever, anyone else to come on as and be interviewed by me as well. That would be
you,
great.
Stefan, you have a podcast. Is that correct?
I do the networking retreat audio show. That's out there as well. So I I tend to do a video, and then we take the audio off it and put it out as a podcast as well. So that also works.
Fantastic. And before I wrap up, I just want to say to everybody in the group, I built this group, I mean, just out of my passion of just networking and meeting people. And this community is for you, all you guys, to network with each other. And I know I've mentioned it before, Stefan, all the guests I have in the group, they're all around in the group. And, everyone else that have joined recently, you should all speak to each other because you just never know. Collaborate with each other. And that's what I keep saying. It's be visible in the group and then just chat to each other. I have no problem with that. And I know, a lot of people that have been in the group, I've joined their communities and they've invited me in to do other things. So I think this is such a great way to sort of build new relationships, with like-minded people and entrepreneurs all around the world. So it's not just in the UK, it's global. So thank you guys for being here, and all of you that have been in the group since the beginning, or new people that have joined as well. But thank you for joining us, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, and as much as Stefan, I'm sure you have. But guys, have a great day, and I will see you all soon. Take care. Bye.